thought I'd just do a quick quality comparison for the Avermedia GC573 capture card. Really impressed with the performance of it. Captures all the resolutions and HDR. I think it does up to 240 frames a second in some resolutions as well. So when you get the device, you just want to make sure it can record as best as it can do. So in the main application, if you click on settings, and then if you click on the device, and if you click up here, performance test, you need to make sure the card is plugged in to a PCI Express. I think it's like an X4, like a ×4 lane, and that should give the required bandwidth that you need then. So yeah, just tells you all the resolutions it supports there. So you got 4K 60. So in this test, what I've done is I've played back a YouTube video on an Android device, and I've captured that output, and I'm just comparing it with the original source file from YouTube, just to see what they compare like. So I've done it in Photoshop, so I've got like uncompressed screenshots of the video captures and the original YouTube video. So here's the original YouTube layer, and then we've got layers of the captures what were made with the card. So we've got a 200 megabit capture. That is pretty much identical nearly to the original source file. It's really hard to see the differences. Then I've done a 15 megabit capture from the card, and then to compare, and what I think is the best way to do it is if you capture it 200 megabits, and then what you do is you encode using like a normal software encoder 250 megabits, and that is really close to the original file as well. Obviously encoding using software it's a lot better than using the real-time encoding from the capture card. So I think you're best maxing out the bit rate on the capture card and then re-encoding it afterwards to your intended bit rate. So I was just using, so once I've captured it 200 megabits, I'll then re-encode it using this StacksRip software, and that gives me a lot better results than just capturing on the card at 50 megabits. So let's compare. So I've got the original YouTube source file here. So if I zoom in onto this building, so this is compared with the 200 megabit capture, and as you can see, when I'm flicking between them, there's hardly no difference at all in the detail, and that's zoomed in like 700% as well. So it's really hard to see any differences, but when you're viewing it normally like this, if I'm flicking between them from the original source and the capture, it's pretty much identical. So that's what I normally do, capture it a high bit rate and then re-encode afterwards. So if we just compare, so this same building captured on the card at 50 megabits, if I flick between them, you can see there's a bit of detail lost on the lines here. So yeah, 50 megabit, that's the original. 50 megabit, that's the original. So this layer here is the encode from my 200 megabit capture, and as you can see, there's not much difference between the original file and this 50 megabit encoded. So now if we compare the 50 megabit from the capture card with the 50 megabit from a proper encoding tool from the 200 meg capture, you can see it retains a lot more detail. when encoding, you know, offline and not real time. But still, when you're viewing it normal, it's still minuscule, the differences. So let's have a look at this tree down here. So this is the original source file, and as you can see, flicking between the 200 meg, there's nothing, there's hardly any difference at all. The 15 meg real-time capture, you can see a bit of detail that's gone. And then with the proper encode from the 200 meg capture, again, it's a really good encode. Let's compare the two 15 meg versions. So yeah, that's real time. That's from the 200 meg capture. So let's compare that with the original source. So yeah, just to summarize, I'd recommend a really high bitrate capture initially, and then you re-encode that to your preferred bitrate, and I think that gives you the best results. So yeah, again, from the original to the high bitrate capture, there's no difference at all. And this is the same at 4K 60 HDR as well. It's really good capture. So even when you're zoomed in this far, flicking between the capture and the original, look at that, identical.